And Amy, and before we get to a little preview of what is and or should be in Donald Trump's speech on immigration tomorrow, just quickly, a couple new ads that are up, one from Trump, one from Hillary, both talking about the economy. Trump's kind of borrowing from John Edwards. And that's a dangerous thing to do with a Two Americas construct. And then Hillary just hammering Trump from having businesses overseas while he's talking about making America great again. So here's Trump and his Two Americas.
In Hillary Clinton's America, the middle class gets crushed. Spending goes up. Taxes go up. Hundreds of thousands of jobs disappear. It's more of the same, but worse. In Donald Trump's America, working families get tax relief. Millions of new jobs created. Wages go up. Small businesses thrive. The American dream achievable. Change that makes America great again. Donald Trump for president.
You know, and I'm hoping soon he will just pull Barack Obama's ad from 2008 where...
Oh, the one you played yesterday?
Yeah, where he says Hillary will say anything and change nothing. Because that's the Hillary today, and it's the better argument to make in 2016 than it was by President Obama, well, then candidate Obama, in 2008. That's really all he needs, because that's what everybody agrees, and they need to be reminded. Now, Hillary, on the other hand, takes on Trump for where he gets his ties made.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
He wears it like a crown. Make America great again. But Trump made his shirts in Bangladesh, his ties in China, and his suits in Mexico. In fact, the real Donald Trump outsourced his products and jobs to 12 different countries. So don't believe the hat. You can't make America great again if you don't make things in America.
Oh, that's pretty effective. But that's, that old, David Letterman, same spot where David Letterman holds up his hat. Where was this made? Holds up a tie. Where was this made? It's the same thing.
Yeah, actually, it's economic illiteracy, that ad is. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Donald Trump essentially has advocated for the same economic illiteracy on trade. It turns out, this is kind of important, just as a discussion on trade, this is kind of relates to the overall conversation of this campaign and where the both candidates are wrong. It turns out 53% of total imports last year in this country for capital goods or industrial equipment, goods that were used by the end user, meaning an American company, to produce their product. If you actually look across the board, you find that nearly all imports that are not raw materials are intermediate components that are used by American companies to produce goods that are sold to Americans, and then in many cases, companies that have that sell internationally to sell to the rest of the world. And so the lower the price of the inputs for U.S. businesses, because that's what these are, inputs, when you're importing capital goods, industrial supplies, consumer goods, car parts and engines, food, inputs into an American company's product, the lower the price of those inputs, the more competitive those companies are, the more products they can sell both internationally and domestically, the greater market share they can achieve, the more U.S. workers they can hire. That's how the economy actually works. That's how a market-based approach to a free society and a free people actually works. Hillary Clinton is wrong, but unfortunately Trump is a bit defenseless on this issue because of the posture he's taken. But for more on this topic, as well as the immigration speech that's highly touted, it's forthcoming tomorrow from Donald Trump, we're happy to be joined again by Ruben Navarrete. He is a syndicated columnist at the Washington Post Writers Group. Ruben, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
So why don't we start with Donald Trump's speech tomorrow? It's kind of being previewed as focused on enforcing the laws, not removing people that are here, at least nonviolent people that are here. Is that the right balance for him to strike, or what are you hoping that will be included in tomorrow's offering?
So I don't think there is any perfect balance for Donald Trump to strike. The more specific he gets, and his running mate, Governor Mike Pence, has said that tomorrow we're going to get lots of specificity. The more specific Donald Trump gets, the more trouble he gets into with either the right or the left. And there is no perfect balance there. People are going to come away from tomorrow's speech unhappy. What he's most concerned about, I think what he should be concerned about, is that his base come away unhappy because they sense a softening in his approach, to use his word, softening of his approach with people who are here illegally. Everybody agrees, or they should agree, that you should secure the border And you even will find many folks ambivalent about the idea of building a wall, people doubtful about whether a wall will stop the flow, but nobody feels as passionately against the wall as they do some of his other immigration plans. So if it seems like he's softening at all, he's going to get an earful from his supporters.
Well, I watched, CNN's Dana Bash, and she was talking with Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, and she asked him about this deportation force that would remove illegal immigrants. And Conway replied, to be determined. So do you think that there's still going to be a deportation team?
No, I don't think there will be. In fact, some others have said it's been some time many months since Donald Trump mentioned a deportation force. If you watch his campaign carefully day to day, you see that the stuff he really values, like building a wall, he will talk about it constantly. Many other things he doesn't go back to. One example, changing the 14th Amendment or an interpretation of the 14th Amendment so that people who are born here, children of illegal immigrants, are no longer citizens. He dropped that like a hot rock 8 months ago. Mm-hmm. He hasn't come back to it. So it's a signal and a tell that he really does, as a businessman, like him or not, he understands the dependence of the U.S. economy on illegal immigrant labor at this point, including his own beloved field of construction. So I think he's clear about that. He wants to build the wall, and he wants to secure the border and stop the flow as best he can. But don't be surprised if he lays out a plan so that people who are here illegally can become legal.
Peter Beinart in The Atlantic, Peter Beinart's a Democrat, but he had an interesting take on this. He basically said Trump's is in a bit of a trap because why he's been successful on the issue, particularly in the primaries, because he didn't get into the debate that has beset the Republican Party on actual immigration policy. He never offered any immigration policy. He just offered a quick fix like building a wall and just hawked it endlessly. And now that he's getting into specifics, kind of what you're suggesting, now this is a more of a trick bag than talking about bombing the hell out of ISIS members and their family, or just building a wall and operating like a businessman would to get done what people said should get done but haven't gotten done, and not having to get into the policy details. That's a danger spot.
So I read that piece last night by Peter Beinart. I think that it's an important point. The point I mentioned before: the more specific Trump gets, the more trouble he gets into. In the primary, he was vague, and he was able to escape this. But my problem with Beinart and others who make this point is every single thing you can say about Donald Trump, you could just as easily say about Hillary Clinton.
Yep, that's right.
Hillary Clinton has been a flip-flopper on immigration. She said the Central American refugees should go home. No, they should be able to stay. I'm against illegal immigrants, she said on a radio show in New York many years ago. Now she wants them to stay. She's been a flip-flopper. The media doesn't cover those flip-flops as aggressively as they do Donald Trump's alleged flip-flop. But beyond that, in terms of vagueness and specificity, likewise, Hillary Clinton would get into enormous trouble with union members, organized labor, people in Rust Belt states like Illinois and other states like Ohio, famously a battleground state, if she came out with a plan to allow people to stay here legally.
Well, and
so
another, sorry to interrupt, but another important point, too, is unlike Donald Trump, she has had an opportunity as a U.S. Senator, as the Secretary of State in the first 2 years of the Obama administration, where they had the Congress to be an advocate for the path to citizenship or whatever reform proposal she thought should be advanced. And nothing happened during her tenure as a U.S. Senator. Nothing happened during her time as Secretary of State. So it's an indictment of somebody who had an opportunity and did nothing.
Before Rahm Emanuel was a disaster as mayor of Chicago, he was a disaster as a member of Congress and one of Nancy Pelosi's top lieutenants. And in that role, he kept immigration off the agenda. When the Democrats controlled the House of Representatives, he called it the third rail of American politics. You touch it, you die. So a fair accounting of this, which you never get from the media, would say that Democrats are just as culpable. It's not that they were busy and had something else to do or went out for a cup of coffee. They have deliberately avoided the subject because it splits their coalition. Latinos who want legal status against union members that don't.
All right, so how could some of the undocumented, but not all, the people that are here, earn a legal status or citizenship?
That seems to be the general direction. Legal status, but not citizenship. It's what I favor. I don't favor a bar against citizenship, an outright bar. I've heard that. I might be persuaded to that if it got the deal done. But the main idea is that once you become a legal resident and you have a green card, you should be able to walk the rest of the road your way on your own and to become a citizen. It's a special thing to be a U.S. citizen. You ought to be able to earn it. You ought to have some stake in the game. But I think that's probably the middle ground. Let them become legal. They've been here for years. One of the things that's very interesting, during that Sean Hannity town hall with Donald Trump, where Hannity seemed to be leading Trump to a softening position, which was very interesting. There are people in the audience who stood up and said, yeah, I believe that if somebody's been here for 30 years, they should go back. And Trump seemed horrified by that. He just seemed surprised, like, you got to be kidding me. That's a very extreme position. So I think Trump believes that the longer you stay, the deeper you are rooted here, the more kids and grandkids you have, the more you should be able to stay.
Yeah, and I think that's generally right. And the other thing is, from the political positioning, it seems that even the hardliners are willing to adopt the Trump change in position to enforcement, and then we'll deal with people who are nonviolent, who have been here illegally, but have been here peacefully and productively illegally for a long time. Even you had the president of FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform, say, and Trump hasn't substantially deviated from his core position. And the question is this a president who's going to carry out the law the way it's written? And is this a president who's going to work to stop illegal immigration? Kind of prospectively. Seems like they're massaging their position to stay in formation with Trump.
Yeah, and for half of the reason they're doing that is because a lot of what Trump will say is reasonable. We ought to be able to treat differently the 70-year-old grandfather who's rooted in this country and has a whole set of lives wrapped up in him than somebody who just got here last week. It's common sense. We can't treat all 12 million people alike. The left wants to legalize everybody, but the right wants to deport everybody, and they're both wrong. You need to be able to go through it, pick and choose who stays and who goes. It's the way it's got to happen. But the other half of the reason that Trump has given much latitude is because his supporters so deeply hate and resent and loathe Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
And so every Clinton voter is not too thrilled with Clinton, but they hate Trump. And every Trump voter is not too thrilled with Trump, but they hate Clinton, and that's what's driving the election.
And he is Ruben Navarrette, syndicated columnist at the Washington Post Writers Group. Ruben, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.